Assalamu alaikum. Hey there, students. Ready to learn something new today? So, as you can see, we are going to do Introduction to Organic Chemistry. In your IGCSE chemistry syllabus, there is a topic called Introduction to Organic Chemistry. So, I find many children saying that organic chemistry is really tough, very confusing. So, what we are going to do today is we are going to use a mind map to learn this. I'm using a mind map because mind maps help us structure information very clearly because it breaks down very complex topics into very simple ones. So, how do we make a mind map? So, to make it, first of all, you need to choose the central topic. Now, for organic chemistry, the central topic for today is going to be carbon and its compounds. Okay, so this is going to be the main idea or the central idea. Now, the next thing that we are going to do is create main branches. So let's create main branches. So we are going to learn about carbon and its compounds and the main branches. Okay, my arrowhead is a little weird. I will kind of correct it later. So the first thing is carbon and its compounds. And here you go, the first branch would be the unique properties. So carbon's unique properties. So we will be kind of looking into what are the unique properties of carbon. Okay. So carbon's unique properties. The next main branch will be types of organic compounds. We will look into all of this in a few moments. So types of organic compounds. Make sure to organize your mind map really well because it should not be confusing later on. So do it neatly and take your time because it's going to help you. Then the third main idea that we are going to look into today is functional groups. So today what we are going to do is we are going to learn or we are going to look into the unique properties of carbon. What are the types of organic compounds and what are the functional groups? So let's begin. That looks neat. Now, why are we studying about carbon? Carbon is abundant in the universe and it's a major constituent of fossil fuels such as coal, petroleum, and natural gas. It is present in the form of its compounds in all living organisms. And such compounds, which you must have learned in your biology as well, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, etc. So they are present everywhere. And carbon combines with other substances, other compounds. They naturally combine and they form carbon compounds. So anything which has carbon in it, anything which has carbon in it is called an organic compound. It's called an organic compound. Anything which is carbon based is called an organic compound. Now, the carbon compounds are so many that the number of compounds, carbon compounds that it forms are so large that a separate branch of chemistry is studied. You know what that branch is called? It's called organic chemistry. Okay, so let's continue with our properties, carbon and its properties. Now, in the structure of carbon atom, there are 4 electrons in the outer shell. I think you'll know that. The mass number or the atomic mass is 6. So the electronic configuration of carbon is 2 and 4. So to complete its octet, carbon requires 4 more electrons. But due to or unfavorable energy considerations, it cannot gain for it. It can neither gain 4 electrons nor it can lose 4 electrons. So if it kind of gains 4 electrons, it will it will make that neon configuration. And if it loses, it can make helium configuration, but it does not do so. It does not do so. But it can share electrons. It can share electrons. So it does not form ionic bonds, it forms covalent bonds. So remember, carbon forms, covalent bonds by sharing these 4 electrons. So it always shares these electrons, and therefore it's also called tetravalent. It's also called tetravalent. Remember this. So the first property, so the first point under carbon's unique properties is that it can form, it forms, or not it can, it forms covalent bonds. So it forms covalent bonds. And how does it form covalent bonds? By sharing electrons. By sharing electrons. And these bonds can be single, double, or triple bonds. They can be single, double, or triple bonds. So this is the first property of carbon. And then the second most unique property is that carbon atoms can join to each other. When they join to each other using the single, double, or triple bonds, they can actually form very long chains. Atoms of other elements can then attach to these chains. So the second property would be, this property is also called catenation. It's called catenation, where it forms long chains. So carbon is attached to another carbon, to another carbon, to another carbon. So carbon atoms can join to each other. So carbon atoms join to each other. They join to each other to form long chains. They can either form long chains, okay? They can either form long chains or also form rings. Rings. So carbon atoms can also arrange themselves as rings. So remember, they can either form long chains or they can arrange themselves into rings. So, this is a very important property, because it gives the different compounds. So these properties are a few things which you need to learn by heart. That is, it forms covalent bonds only by sharing electrons, and they can form single, double, or triple bonds. And of course, the next property, where the carbon can attach to itself, to each other. They form long chains, by attaching to each other. They can either form long chains, but they can also form rings. They can arrange themselves in rings. So these are the two properties. Now coming to the next main branch, the types of organic compounds. So here you must know that organic compounds are compounds which contain carbon. They contain carbon. So all compounds which have carbon in them are called organic compounds. Of course, there are a few exceptions like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. So we will learn about that later. Now, the most simplest of organic compounds are hydrocarbons. The most simplest. These are the most simplest organic compounds. And these hydrocarbons are compounds that contain carbon and hydrogen only. Carbon and hydrogen only. So they have only carbon and hydrogen. And these hydrocarbons are divided into saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbons. So don't get confused. They are divided into saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbons. So the hydrocarbons that, after this subdivision, now let's look at what are saturated hydrocarbons. So these are molecules that contain only single bonds. They have only single bonds, okay? So all saturated hydrocarbons will have only single bond, single covalent bonds. So you will not find double or triple bonds here. Since carbon has a valency of 4, the bonds not used in making the chain, that is this bond and this bond and this bond and this one and this one and this one, the ones which are not used in making the chain are linked to hydrogens. Say they are all linked to hydrogens. Now, to not make it confusing, I'll remove this for now and just put in carbon, single bond, carbon. So no other atoms are added to these molecules, which is why they are called saturated. So this family of saturated hydrocarbons, this family of saturated hydrocarbons are called alkanes. They are called alkanes. Okay? Clear enough? Are we on the same page? So organic compounds, like we have hydrocarbons, which are the simplest organic compounds, which are made of carbon and hydrogen only. And this is subdivided into saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbons. Now, coming to saturated hydrocarbons, they have single bonds, and this family of saturated hydrocarbons are called alkanes. And the general formula for alkanes is CnH2n plus 2. So we will be learning about how to find the general formula and about the homologous series in our next session. So for now, you learn about the hydrocarbons which are saturated and the ones which have a single bond. They are called alkanes and they have a general formula of CnH2n plus 2. So likewise, there are unsaturated hydrocarbons. Now these hydrocarbons, they have a carbon double bond carbon. So carbon double bond in an, and this family is called an alkene family. Okay, so alkenes, they contain only carbon. Now remember, alkanes contain only single bonds, but alkene have double bond. So other atoms can add on to alkene molecules when the double bond breaks open. But to alkenes, they cannot be done. That's why it's called saturated. But here, when the double bond breaks open, other atoms can join it. And these are unsaturated. That's why they are called unsaturated hydrocarbons. So I hope you understood this. So other atoms can add on to alkene molecules when the double bond breaks open. So the alkenes are unsaturated hydrocarbons. So this difference is the basis for a simple test for unsaturation in a hydrocarbon molecule. So now there is actually you do have alkynes, but we will not learn much about it. But you should know that alkynes are a family of unsaturated hydrocarbons which have triple bond, carbon-carbon triple bond. So alkynes are also unsaturated hydrocarbons. They contain carbon-carbon triple bond. So I think the least that you need to know about it, that is all you need to know about it in your IGCSE. So this is a general information or general thing about the hydrocarbons, but you also need to know the formula. So formula for alkenes is CnH2n. So in our next video, we will learn more about functional groups. So as of now, this is this is what you need to we will wind up at this level. So this is my mind map. So I will be continuing this mind map in the next session. So stay tuned and be connected. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.